بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا مولانا حبيب الله العالمين أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم. Assalamu alaikum everybody. Assalamu alaikum to those who are joining to today's podcast. Alaikum salam. I can see our guest is already here. Boy, he's alaikum to Sheikh Faiyaz. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's have a look at that beautiful face. Assalamu alaikum, Agha. How are you?
Alaikum salam. Alaikum salam. Good, alhamdulillah. How about yourself?
Man, you're the most punctual of everyone. You're ready to go straight away. People usually take a few minutes, but...
Oh, I just got up from my nap, so please forgive me.
I just had a massive iftar, so I think we're feeling the same way. I don't know.
I mean, how's it going? How's
Every
Ramadan going?
every office should have a place to nap, don't you think? It's essential. Or the
What's that?
ambiance. Every office should have an ability to nap in there. You know, it's very important.
I'm working from home today, alhamdulillah. So I got a epic nap on my bed. And as soon as we wrap this up, I might go for another one. In all honesty.
So you were telling me before, oh, we have to time it the same way. I've got to decide what I've got to do. Basically, you were scheduling your nap in between my podcast.
Oh,
That's
for
what you're
sure.
saying.
You know it. Actually, no. Today's my lucky day. I got a meeting that got canceled. So alhamdulillah, it all worked out. Alhamdulillah.
It seems like you've been busy lately. What's been happening in your life? Are any new developments? Anything? What's going on?
No, nothing at all. Just a regular guy trying to survive here. No, alhamdulillah, busy with Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, I completed my my doctoral dissertation in defense a couple of days ago. So I think that my naps are well deserved. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, and it makes us all guilty who've only got masters. Why do we think we deserve a nap when you've earned your nap for the PhD?
Everyone deserves a nap during the month of Ramadan.
Without a doubt.
Noam fihi ibadah. So enjoy the worship
I
the
love
obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while in the course of
Inshallah.
while in the course of resting on your beds, man.
Yeah. If every second is ibadah, every wink of sleep is ibadah, then go and nap, guys. Make the most of it. Is what we're saying.
I think we need to tell one of our listeners that I'm so sorry, I'm not Sheikh Javad Shamali, unfortunately. He's a great guy.
No. Sheikh Javad tuned in. He listened, so I think she saw that he listened. He's tuned. I think he's listening now. Okay. So the sister saw Sheikh Javad tune in. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't want to disappoint your viewers. I can go back to take my nap if he's still there. He can join.
No. Our podcast is being used vicariously for people to talk to Sheikh Javad Shamali. That's what it's being used for.
Oh, wonderful. Nice. Awesome.
I like calling you doctor. It makes me feel so proud of you. I like the feeling of saying Assalamu alaikum, doctor.
Faiyaz is good. I appreciate it.
Because I read your master's dissertation many years ago. I read the dissertation, and I remember.
Oh, really?
Because there's a big section on poetry in there as well, for Abu Abdullah.
Correct.
And the preservation of Imam al-Mahdi in poetry. I remember I found that so powerful. So I'm a big fan of your written work, and I'm glad there's an addition piece to it now. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. No, my master's dissertation was on lamentation poetry for Imam al-Hussein, alayhi salam, which I think is a really important historical tool in the development of the story of Karbala. But in addition to, obviously, it has like a really important cultural component and aspect to it, and the way that we understand what it means to grieve and being in a state of demonstration of love and adoration for the Imams Ahlul Bayt. So undoubtedly, I think it's really, really important. So thanks for reading it.
No, of course. I remember I read, I'm not going to name who, a researcher's master's, because we have to research and read. And she was like, I can't believe someone read it. And I was like, what do you mean? Do you guys think you produced these works and no one actually reads them?
Well, we need to become people generally, unfortunately, I think, like in the community, we're not big readers, right? People love to watch things, they love to listen to things, and that makes sense. I get it. But spending a portion of like one's day reading is so much more transformational than listening or than watching, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, my advice to myself during the month of Ramadan is to read a little bit more. But at the same time, to anyone who might be interested, it just, you know, out there, a little bit of time, even if it's 10, 15 minutes daily to read something, anything, um, you know, really it makes you smarter. Really it makes you more intelligent. Really it makes you more humbled to know that you don't know so much. It's only going to make you kind of dive into learning and seeking a little bit more. And that's never supposed to end, right? It's supposed to be a journey that we're running on consistently.
Yeah, and at the very least, expand your vocabulary so you can impress people by masking the meaning of your language in ways they
Oh,
cannot
absolutely. What
comprehend.
that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, you know, coming up with semantics. So when you talk, people think you're really intelligent.
Is your dissertation
But
just loads of like synonyms of random words just dotted around your
oh, of
paper?
course, yeah, yeah. Actually, you know what? You're actually very, very loquacious. I should say. Mashallah.
Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah,
much. Your eloquence is antithetical to the truth, but I appreciate I appreciate the good fortune you come to me with. So thank you.
deep, deep.
I'm British, man. We grew up reading Tolkien and Lewis. I think we're a bit different, you know. I don't know.
We probably are. We probably are very different. Yes.
Speaking of which, I heard you think London's better than New York. Would you like to tell us why in my podcast right now?
I am. I will. I'm fasting during the month of Ramadan, and I am abstaining from food and drink. And I know you broke your fast. You already had iftar, but there is no
Yeah.
way in hell that I would ever lie when I'm fasting and say that London is better than New York. Not your rainy weather, not your cloudy
Ah,
days, and even more cloudy personalities. So
wow.
no,
Wow.
no, New York, mashallah, is far greater than London, undoubtedly. I don't think there's
Mashallah.
any doubt about that.
Aga, you having this PhD has really made you a bit more brutal. I mean, I thought you'd at least say I've got family there, and you know, Abbas, you're there. Straight for it.
No, like I told you, I just woke up from a nap, so forgive me.
How is everyone at NYU? How is the MSA? How's everyone there?
Everything is great, alhamdulillah. Everything is great. So my work is situated at New York University's Islamic Center, where we oversee approximately 3,000 Muslim students on our campus. The Muslim Student Association, the MSA, is just one of these Muslim student groups, and it undoubtedly is the largest one. But in addition to that, our campus is very unique in that we're able to engage the larger Muslim community across New York City. So we're not talking about a limitation of serving the student community, but we
Mm,
estimate that our center serves approximately 10,000 unique individuals, 10,000 unique Muslims in the greater New York City area yearly, which makes it very, very unique. In addition to the fact that it caters to a very diverse group of individuals, diverse theologically, diverse juristly, and of course, diverse ethnically. But then, most importantly, diverse sort of on their spectrum of religiosity, so to say, or on their level of
of
observance. You have
course.
people who have been, you know, memorizers of the Quran and students in the seminary. But on the flip side, there are people who are just coming because they're just learning about the religion of Islam. And I think that's kind of, you know, one of the unique facets and beauty of our community, because really it is a microcosm of New York City. Now, I know we're just joking about, you know, the London New York City rivalry and whatnot. But what I think, and again, I don't know London so well, but what I do know is that New York City, due to its size, due to its numbers, and due to its diversity and due to its transience, how many people enter and how many people leave consistently, it makes it a very, very unique place to teach. It makes it a very unique place to engage and understand community, communities more broadly. But then, in addition to that, it's a really, really interesting and unique place also to experience Islam and the beauty of the diversity that we have with the tradition, because of, you know, it is the center of this of this country, of course, the United States. But in addition to that, it's also obviously a place that so many people spend at least short periods of time, in their life, either to study or to work or to visit or whatever it might be. And many of them, we have the opportunity to engage them in our programming yearly. Alhamdulillah.
All right, fine. I won't mention it again, okay? I mean,
As long as we shut you up with that London talk, yeah, that's all we.
No,
That's what I
I
was
have
looking
loads.
forward to.
I have content. I have a rebuttal, but it's not because you've woken up an app. It's not because you're a PhD. It's because I had loads of biryani that I need to just, I think it's better if we just move on.
Let's
So,
not talk about food right now, man. I still got a couple more hours, man.
what are you guys doing? Like iftar for the community in NY? Do you guys do it yourself? Have you got something going? What's happening there?
Yeah, yeah, we serve approximately anywhere between 300 and 800 people nightly during the nights of Ramadan, iftar, as well as a program that is led prior to iftar. Thereafter, depending on what community that you come from, theologically or jurisprudentially, we have programs that are set for the Shi'i community, for the Sunni community during the nights of Layal al-Qadr, for instance. I'll be leading specific programming,
Hmm.
obviously for our Shia congregation. And anyone, though, is welcome. Those who are Sunnis, those who are non-Muslims as well. Many of them will come and observe what it is that we do ritualistically.
Yeah.
And so again, that makes it a very unique place and a very beautiful place. And again, an opportunity for people to learn all across the spectrum, regardless of where they are in terms of their religious development or spiritual growth. That's something that I believe in a great deal, and I think it's super important for us to have institutions like that, cities like that, um, you know, where there is that sort of transient side and that possibility.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why your project in New York is particularly interesting for all Shia in general because of, the nature of it. But also why you getting a PhD in the middle of it seems so remarkable. Someone was saying that like usually when you're researching, you are busy and the research and teaching element dominates time. And I know how involved you are in the local community. And let me just ask you this so we can get it out the way. What was it like drafting and researching your thesis and revising and doing it in the middle of doing so many community works at the same time? Did you find a way to get energy from them, or was it much of a distraction that, I've got to research, I haven't got time to do a Thursday night program right now? Like, how did it actually feel for the last few years?
So let me just throw out that I didn't do a PhD. I did an EDD, which is a doctorate in education. It has the similarities, but also its differences. I would say that number one, because obviously it's something that I cared about. I found it as an opportunity for it to contribute also, like in my community work, meaning the tools that I was gaining, be it the class or the writing or the reading or the research or whatever it might be. But
Yeah,
then, secondly, in addition to that, I did undoubtedly cut out a lot of my non-work activities or my sort of additional activities during the course of the last several years, just so I can spend time to complete it. In some ways, the pandemic almost assisted in that, being that I would often travel, make several trips internationally or for speaking engagements throughout the year. That due to the pandemic, I didn't have to travel anymore. I'll go for Hajj, for instance, yearly. The last 2 years, we haven't been able to go for Hajj, which frees up not only the 2 weeks where I'm away, but in addition to that, the prep time, the workshops and stuff like that that I would lead or that I would teach or whatever it might be leading up
yeah,
to. I usually take a group for ziyarah obviously in 2020, 2021, or 2020, I did that. I didn't make that trip again and again. Also, all of the logistics that go into planning for a group of 50, whatever, however many people. All of that
yeah,
was kind of naturally, organically fell off my responsibility and my shoulder. And then all of like the other speaking engagements, many of the things also that I would do, even locally here in New York, um, outside of my university role, serving or helping out with community projects and whatnot. I didn't have those obligations, or I refused many of them. Unfortunately, I just didn't have the time. Um, so it was kind of a combination of both. On one side, it helped contribute to my hopefully my desire to serve adequately, and that research and that reading and everything helped me gain the skills to hopefully be more proficient. But on the flip side, undoubtedly, I did cut out a lot of things that I would otherwise be doing, that I hope to get back to, inshallah. Serving and traveling a little bit more, maybe a trip to London, one day soon. Um,
inshallah.
and alhamdulillah, it all worked out. And again, being at home, being, in New York City in the middle of the pandemic, which was obviously a really horrific place, at one point, and for a large point, it was the epicenter of, so much destruction and so much chaos. And Allah make it easy for everyone who has gone through the
Inshallah.
difficulties and the hardships and the trauma. It allowed for me to again just kind of devote myself and cleared up some time from me. And if you're not familiar, in New York, we commute a lot. We're always in train, we're always in the train,
Yeah.
we're always in the car, we're always sitting in traffic. Cutting all of those, those free time out of the day gave me. That's okay.
Yeah,
No
man,
worries,
I
no
don't
worries.
know.
All good, no
Teething
problem.
issues in the new podcast. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all good, no problem.
What I was going to say, which, by the way, this is a very good moment to say to all of you listening, in case that happens again, it's a very good idea to follow the podcast on Instagram, give it a follow. And that way, if we go off again, you can come straight back on. Okay. Yeah, that was maneuvered for a shout.
Well done.
No,
Well done.
what I was saying, actually, another thing, do you remember the first ever podcast I ever did? You were on. I don't know if you remember. It was me, you, and
Yeah,
Neil
I
and
do
Sheikh
remember.
Jaffer. Do you remember how bad my
Yeah.
mic was then? Like, it wasn't working.
I do. Yeah, it was
You must have
terrible.
you must have thought, like, what is this project? Like,
No, alhamdulillah, it's all good. It's all good. All good.
by the way, if I was listening, every so often, me, Sheikh Faiyaz, Sheikh Jaffer Ladak, and brother Neil Nasser in London, every so often we sit together and we do a podcast, and they're usually beautiful. This year, unfortunately, we didn't get time to do it yet, so hopefully we got to do it soon, definitely.
Inshallah.
What you're saying, I was thinking of this. So you were saying that in the course of achieving, your paper, there were some natural decisions you had to take as a cost to focus on your goal. And I think most people who give themselves goals don't realize the amount of personal cost that goes into actually achieving something. And when it comes to, if your goal is yourself, like in Shahr Ramadan, when I'm trying to work on myself, you realize that there are some quite painful decisions you have to make if you're going to take this journey of growth seriously. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because often what happens is we have to cut things out of our lives which we have a previous attachment to, that we find they are our comfort in many ways, they are our safety, but they are prohibiting our growth. I wonder in Shahr Ramadan, the obvious example is food and drink, but if we look deeper, this path of growth, why does it hurt sometimes? And why does it hurt so much sometimes?
Because we have to hold ourselves accountable, when someone else holds us accountable, we understand that. Our parents, our family members, our superiors in a place of work, they come and they tell us, you're not doing this well, you got to do this better. And oftentimes that makes sense, and we got to sit with it, and we just got to do it because that's the right thing to do. I think what's particularly challenging is when you look in the mirror yourself and you say, like, whoa, like, I'm not good at this, or like I need to be better at this, or I can do better at this, or I have to work on this. That's particularly difficult and challenging, because for some people, and for some people it's not, but for some people, they put off responsibility, or we put off a responsibility from our shoulders with ease. وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. Allah says in the Quran, Surah As-Safat, that if you're not responsible for yourself, you're going to be held accountable. If you don't hold yourself to account, you will be held accountable virtually. And I think that during the month of Ramadan, you kind of got to sit with yourself, since you have so much time with yourself, right? You're not eating, right. You're not drinking, you're not thinking about what you're going to eat, you're not thinking about what you're going to drink. So many of our distractions are virtually, non-existent, or they're on the periphery during the holy month. That just gives us more time to understand a little bit who we are, right? And at the same time, then understanding who God is. And I think that time that we spend with figuring out who we are as individuals, it can be, and it should be like some sort of reckoning, and in order to make those natural improvements and strive, we got to hold ourselves accountable, and sitting, and really holding ourselves to task naturally is difficult and challenging. Growth is difficult and challenging all the way across the board, be it physically or be it spiritually, right?
Yeah. Well, even sitting with God can be uncomfortable sometimes, because you are bare. I mean, you are, yeah, exactly, always. You're completely vulnerable in a way that we never are with anyone else. Like,
to whom else can we say that, in dua, all of my faults? No one else does. If they did, they would have abandoned me or left me behind. But here's one being
Right.
who doesn't. And yeah, but for some reason though, there's like, we have shame for our sins, but we don't have shame in front of God in the way that I'm ashamed to be myself in front of you. There's this idea that God will accept you no matter what, this unconditional love that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I think the problem that often happens is if we haven't been to God in a long time, or we don't go to God in the right way, we often miss out that entire authentic relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are, it almost feels a chore or a routine or a habit or something. And Shahr Ramadan, whether we like it or not, is filled with, habits and systems that keep replicating every year, What can we say to someone to say, alaykum anfusukum, like genuinely take responsibility for yourself this Ramadan, and don't fall into the habit of falling into routines with God, because that seems like a worse thing than not knowing God or not caring about God.
Yeah. We throw on this word quite a bit of like devotion. We want to be devotional to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we like show sincerity? All of these type of, really important phrases that we employ during the month of Ramadan from the pulpit or from whatever. And I think that to really understand and to embody what it means to being in a state of devotion, it requires a lot of effort and focus. And so to be in control of one's soul, oneself, and seek toward building a meaningful relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it really requires real devotion. How do we get there, right? Like in practical steps, because we could be utilizing the language and the semantics. One of those means can literally be reading these lines that you just uttered, right? Reading the words of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, be it Dua Kumail, tonight's Thursday night, by reading Dua Aba Hamza al-Thimali, by supplicating in this incredibly devotional way that we learn from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is really, really something transformative, Their words are so beautiful, and sometimes we don't have the words to express ourselves. We don't know what to say.
We have the feeling, but we don't have the language for that feeling sometimes.
Exactly, beautifully said. Yeah, exactly. We have the feeling, but we don't have the words. And you read the words of Imam As-Sajjad alayhi salam, and what you realize is he has the words that I wanted to say, but I just didn't know how to say it.
Wow.
And I think that sitting with that, and literally reading that, and again, not just reading it, you can definitely read it and learn from it, but then to take the next step is to read it, but with devoting yourself to it,
Yeah.
And again, emptying our hearts and being just open and honest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, you will find immediately, anyone who is listening who has not done that before, all it takes is one experience, right? One experience to engage with God and to be in conversation with the Lord of the worlds in the darkness of night during the nights of the month of Ramadan, reading the words of Ahlul Bayt, the words that you never knew that you needed to say, and you will find that to be the most transformative experience in your life. And it is sufficient to say that your heart will be emptied and will be filled with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately after, at least for that moment. And then the idea is for us to carry that forward, which obviously requires more work and more focus and more diligence. But again, once you have that sweetness and once you taste it, it's hard to go back, And so I urge everyone, and firstly as a reminder to myself, to spend some of our nights, some of our days in dedication and supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by reading words like those of Imam Ali ibn Hussein as-Sajjad.
You know what's so interesting? Like, this has always been true. Like, this has always been the way. But we maybe have developed habits or routines that we didn't allow us to use dua as a meaningful part of our day, or even like day is a good way. I mean, okay, well, you're in New York and London, they're both very busy places, and in general, we live busy lifestyles. We have to really mean it to make time for God in our environment. Like, otherwise, time will go away. So I'm thinking to myself, like, why do people not have this as a regular part of their routine or their day, their life? And one of the reasons I think is and it's from that narration of one of the imams where he says, the one who regards himself as honorable will see sins as dishonorable. And it made me think that, the more value you have for yourself, the more you take yourself seriously, it changes how you view the world. And I wonder if the reason why many of us don't have this is because we never saw ourselves as worth building that relation with God for. We never saw ourselves as having that value. that as well as my career and my education and my physical self, there's an entire spiritual side of myself that deserves potentially being realized.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it really eloquently and beautifully. But in addition to that, it's probably also like you said, it's been the way. Nothing has changed. This is what we learned from the Prophet and from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, meaning the mechanisms and the tools of dedication and devotion to Allah Azza wa Jal. But the problem, I think, is the way, though that has been the way, that's not been the way that's been communicated, right? We learn through a deficit approach. We learn through the negativity and the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God is disappointed with you. Imagine if the Prophet saw you this way. You would never be, how can you be the Shia of Ali? Would you really be on the side of Imam Hussein, or would you be on the side of Umar ibn Saad? How often do we hear this rhetoric, right? And just imagine,
regular
right?
member talk.
Yeah, exactly, right? And I imagine you grow up in this climate, like I have, and like I know you have. When you're consistently being bombarded with imagery around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being this angry figure sitting on a throne ready to strike down punishment, or when we picture the Prophet or the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, peace and blessings be upon them, being these very intimidating personalities who are so critical and so judgmental, well, then what do you expect, as a product? How are you going to get people who want to devote themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who want to communicate with God in any sort of meaningful and beautiful way, right? There's no devotion or remembrance or love in that relationship. It's a relationship solely and strictly based on fear, if that fear is even there. Because when people are so scared of someone, either they remain scared or they stand up in opposition to them. I'll give you the example, right? People are scared of a tyrant. They're scared of a tyrant because a tyrant, number one, is unjust or inequitable. First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all just. Are we ever scared of people who are just and fair? We're not. No, we love them and we appreciate them, right? Number one. Number two is, under a tyrant's rule, either people, they obey, or they hate, but they obey quietly in secret, or eventually it comes to a breaking point where they rebel, right? And this is sort of the sunnah of the human being, right? This is the practice of the human being. All across the world, you study history, you study civilization, a tyrant is always eventually going to have a day in which his community is going to respond against him, either as a head of state or even as a head of household, right? Or even as the head of a workplace. That's just sort of the nature. Now, if our perception of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the same as we have for a tyrant, then either someone is going to obey out of fear, or secondly, they're going to be sitting in their homes, right, completely rejecting this God, right, who is absolutely the opposite of what they've pictured in their mind. But the reason why they have that imagery, again, is because of the way that we communicate religion, Where's like the smile, Where's the positivity, Where's the talk about paradise? Where's the talk about love, And I know, like, I say this a lot, so people who listen to me all the time, they say, you say the same thing all the time, right? But I think that it's so important for me to just, hammer this home, because we have been, drilled with a completely different perception. And unless it's not repeated every single day at every single opportunity that I have, that will continue to sit in people's minds and in their hearts. And I want to worship a God then who I love. I want to worship a God that loves me and that cares about me and that introduces himself as the most merciful of those who show mercy, and so on. You follow what I'm saying? And so it's not only that people don't care about themselves or don't value their souls, but I think it's because they grow up or they learn or they're situated in a culture that never gave them the tools to say you should care about yourself, right? You should care about your heart. You should care about your soul, so on and so forth.
Or we're told that God cares about you, which I don't think people went through their life thinking of that. Like, God actually thinks, or not thinks, is concerned with my well-being, or worries about my imtihanat and how I deal with them. I'm using these language to describe how imminent Allah is to our challenges. Today we were discussing this ayah in a session I gave on ma wadda'aka rabbuka wa ma qala. This idea that even the Prophet is told there's no way that Allah could ever despise you or leave you away or abandon you. I read one opinion that's qala. There are two meanings of it from qila. One is that despise, one is throw. And one of the Fasireen says, when you hate someone, you throw them from your heart. You remove them from your heart. And the verse is saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never throw or remove you from his mercy. I mean, there's nothing you could do which would make him at least desire or want that from you. And I think this idea of conditions is a problem as well, where I think that so long as I'm doing X, Y, and Z, I get to have the nice God. But the moment I slip up or make one or two or a series of mistakes or become a narrative which I've been told is the bad, the bad thing, that God for some reason no longer cares about me. And I don't know when that happened, but we need to undo that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, that on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will disperse his mercy hatta iblis yatma'u fi rahmatah, right? That even shaitan himself will believe that he will be a recipient of the mercy of God, and so no, there's not these two gods. One of them who, first of all, again, in their picture, or in this image that we've created, that like God virtually has mood swings, like you said, right? Na'udhu billahi, and on one side, God is this merciful, caring, compassionate, loving, gentle, graceful, right? But the minute you commit a sin, all of a sudden he transitions into this, whatever, and that's really, really terrible. That's so distant again from what our tradition teaches us. And really, I say all of this and not to say doom and gloom and our communities are a mess. No, I don't say it because of that. I really say it because this month of opportunity, right, gives us that chance to reconstruct that ideology and that phenomenon, or whatever you want to call it, that has entered and appeared within our minds and in our hearts. So forget what happened yesterday. Now let's utilize like today as that opportunity that we have to rebuild this connection and this relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a meaningful way. And again, like, you read some of these supplications and these du'as about al-Bayt alayhi salam, and when you read them contextually, understanding, just how merciful and how caring and how compassionate God is. And then you read Dua Abu Hamza al-Thimali, for instance, of Imam Zain al-Abidin, how transformative, is it then? Everything all of a sudden makes sense, The Imam alayhi salam, in some of those opening lines, he says, "Oh Allah, you are the one, who calls me to you, but I'm the one who doesn't respond to you. تَتَحَبَّبُ إِلَيَّ وَأَتَبَغَّضُ عليك," as we recite in Dua al-Iftitah, right? You demonstrate love to me, but I'm the one who's angry with you, not the opposite way. God, he consistently is dispersing and manifesting his mercy for us. We are the ones who are rejecting it, And I think that when we start off with that, all of a sudden, when we remember that God, he supports us, he has our back. وَمَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. He is with you wherever you are. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. إِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Right? All of these ayat of the Quran that demonstrate this closeness and proximity that God is to us. The question that we have to ask is, how close are we reciprocating? Are we reciprocating that same sense of proximity to him, Azza wa Jalla, or no? And again, through that, we're able to really understand and appreciate, and again, build that really meaningful relationship that's being intended during these nights, inshallah.
Yeah, beautiful. A few days ago, we looked at Anta Dhakir Qabla Dhakirin as an example of this, that you remember us before we remember you. So maybe I'm negligent of you, but your dhikr of me was never absent, in the way that I'm treated. What you said is so nice because it links back to how we started, which was, and I'll add some commentary to this, we don't rediscover God just through rational discourse or through only academic study. It's through experience. It's through experiential knowledge. And dua is that name to describe the way of experiencing God. It's a way of talking to God. And another thing we often do is we think that, the amount of knowledge which is there in terms of aqaid and theology and falsafa, these are roots to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But again, I think it was always the case that when you know God, this is the strongest proof you'll ever have of his wujud, of his kindness, of his love, than having to go through a number of mental steps to prove, ithbat, sifat, and all these things. And like, that does not describe a God who loves me. That describes a phenomenon in a lab. Dua is allowing yourself to be completely vulnerable with God and open with God and accepted. And something another person was saying to me was, when they go for ziyarat, they just speak to the aimma because you speak. You're not there only to go to running from maqamat to maqamat. You're there to have a conversation and a dialogue. Here's a question to you. If someone does this and they have this conversation, in what ways do they hear the response from God? How do we hear, what kind of feedback do we get when we go to God with this kind of presence?
I think that's what people want, right? People, generally we would love to hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respond to me with a voice or something of that, a manifestation that's similar to that. That's not what we receive naturally, right? But I will say that when we dedicate and when an individual devotes themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a meaningful way, and through the exhaustion of our body, like we experienced during the month of Ramadan, and through the standing and bowing and prostrating, our souls, they feel something, and that feeling that we engage or that we experience, or that love or that intimacy that we appreciate, or that is so sweet to us during the course of our conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is God responding and reciprocating to us. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placing His love, in our heart, such that we are more inclined to being in that state of worship again tomorrow. And like I said before, I said that if someone has never experienced that, then opening up that dua and reading it again in a devotional way, understanding what it is that you're saying, has that potential and will undoubtedly be this incredibly transformational experience. Step number 2, though, is a little bit harder, and that's to make sure that we're consistent with it,
Right.
And the way that we will know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is responding or is listening to us, and undoubtedly he is, but in the way that we can also feel that response, in the way that, obviously we can't experience it verbally, is that we will find the motivation and the inspiration to do it again tomorrow, and I liken it to this, right? The first time somebody exercises is difficult for them, it's challenging for them, right? You go out for a run, lift a weight, right? That first weight that you pick up is so difficult. You go there and you don't even know like your proper form. You don't even, it just, your lungs don't have the capacity, your muscles don't have the capacity. But after you experience a little bit, you realize that not only do you feel better, not only is it healthier for you, not only is this the right thing for me to do, right? But you will find the motivation to go tomorrow and the day after. And if you're consistent with it, all of a sudden you realize that you will grow, you will become healthier, it's better for you, right?
Yeah.
And again, there is some joy that you gain from like regular exercise, for instance. Spiritually, our hearts and our souls are very similar in this regard. The first time opening up yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't know what you're doing, right? Like we said before, like how are you going to sit and converse with Allah Azza wa Jal?
You're flexing a whole new muscle, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And for us, like we haven't used that in many years, or since last Ramadan, right? So it takes a long time. It's like going for a run once a year. Your lung capacity is never going to have the capacity to withstand it for more than 3 seconds, And similarly, so now you're trying to flex again, like you said, this soul of yours, and it's difficult and it's challenging, but you got to be consistent with it, right? And you'll find that you take those few steps, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come to you. And then again, He will place His love in our heart such that we feel, right? That we know Him and we feel Him, and we gain in that ma'rifah of Him because He unveils Himself to us. And that is, an incredibly sort of beautiful and moving experience. And it should start now, right? It should start today. It should start during the course of these nights during the holy month of Ramadan. And once we do that, honestly, it's very difficult to go back. It's very difficult to go back.
And actually, what we are asked of is actually so little compared to what we get in response. It's not,
Yeah.
Wallahi al-Azim. Ya the money wala yumannu alayhi munna alayya. Like it's not even that much that we are offering in truth. We're not offering that much of ourselves, but we receive so much. I want to go through a few comments, and I know you've got to get back to a very important activity after. So let me quickly read some of these comments, and then inshallah, if you want to address them, you can. So my sister is saying, by the way, if you're listening and you're not subscribed, please follow. Absolutely, there is not always an instant reward. This is what I was saying before about the feedback. Youth want instant positive stimuli. Sometimes our prayers and connection to Allah and Ahlul Bayt is slow releasing progress rather than immediate. You know why I like this comment? That's like an actual real relationship. Like in a relationship with anyone, you don't get everything in one go. It's a process, and it's a journey. And at different times, you get different things from it. It grows with you. And I think with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't get that Ayatollah Qadi, you know, experience on day one of reading Salat al-Layl. But what we do get is a process. And like you mentioned, once you've tasted at least one fragrance of it, you have to follow in search of it wherever it takes you. And then the more that you walk in life, I think the more provision you carry. And then you look back and people of wisdom tell us that, you know, I've been through what you've been through and here's how I did it. And you find yourself being an advisor to others. So it really is really the most human of all journeys, I think, knowing Allah.
Absolutely.
Anything any way you'd want to respond to that comment?
No, maybe just a quick add-on. In the same way, right? Someone wants to transform their body. They want to lose weight, right? Or they want to gain in fitness or whatever it might be. You know, you can't all of a sudden, you know, go out for 1 mile run and drink a kale smoothie and all of a sudden expect your body to be transformed into I don't know into whoever's, right? It's a process, like you said. It takes time, it takes focus, and it takes diligence. And for us to assume, you know, and again, like in the world of instant satisfaction, you know, you get what you pay for, so to say, right? And if we want a long-lasting, meaningful journey with the Lord of the Worlds, then it doesn't take one or two experiences. It doesn't take one or two, days, and all of a sudden we figure it out. No, it's something that we have to commit ourselves to. And again, we will see the results, and when we do, again, you know, we will feel inspired, inshallah.
And I think we actually look back and enjoy the moments of silence when we get that feedback from God that, you know, it's actually worth it, all those days and hours and whatever. We actually enjoy it retrospectively, which is another experiential thing. By the way,
and again, there's always more room, right? There's always more room to grow. It never ends either. So
exactly. After an EED, who knows what's next? You know, you can do another qualification, and, you know, inshallah, keep going. What's with these references to the gym? Are you working out? Are you having a new fitness regime? I mean, is it on your mind?
I just take naps and eat pecan pie. I don't do anything else. No.
Shout out to the pecan pie.
I'm just giving the example. I'm giving an example for the listener who does those things.
Okay, another comment here is, I try to discuss growth and the pain thereof with my children who are just about teenagers. What's the best approach to speak about the pain of growth with children? I haven't got kids, Sheikh Faiyaz, so maybe you want to take this one.
The growth of pain? I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. You want to help me out understanding the question?
Growth. I think it just means, you know, this discourse of growth is actually a more thing. Yeah, like how do you have that discourse with a child, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that's a really, really great question. My children are a little bit too young. They're not in the teenage years yet. But
you've not started on Wajib al-Wujud. You've not started on
not yet. One day, inshallah. No. Experientially, first of all, and then we'll get to all that good stuff.
And everything.
I would say that, you know, to talk to anyone, particularly young individuals, young folks, with regards to this notion or this idea of pain, really goes back to the same concept that we speak to, which is growth in general. And growth doesn't come easy, right? When a child is young and they make a mistake, they get scolded, right? Or they get disciplined in some capacity in order that they're able to learn. And I think that as we grow, experiences with pain, with being disciplined, with going through hardships and difficulties, they become more real, they become more tangible. Sometimes they come from us as parents, but sometimes they come from community, they come from society, they come from sort of other divine forces that we can't understand. But that's all part of the process of growing to be, and reach hopefully the state of perfection that we're understanding. I would liken the example that, you know, for the sister who's asking the question, or for the mother or the father who's asking the question, in terms of the way that they communicate with their children, you know, to give them the example of an athlete again, right? No athlete is going to, you know, again, I don't know anything about soccer in case they're in the UK. Like the best basketball player.
Hold on a second. Sheikh, you're on my podcast. We call it football. Okay, don't
football, soccer, whatever you guys call it. Yeah, in the UK.
Whoa,
so I'll just give the example.
Sacrilegious.
I'll give the example of basketball. All right.
That's halal.
Is that fine?
Good.
The best basketball player in the world is LeBron James, right? LeBron James doesn't all of a sudden come out and dominate like the court and dominate his opponent, you know, by just waking up in the morning. He's focused and he's diligent. He goes through pain. He goes through hardship. He goes through training. He goes through, you know, again, exercise regimen and the type of food that he eats, right? He fails many times before he reaches the pinnacle, you know, of becoming the best player in the world, or attaining his goal of becoming a champion, or whatever it might be. And I think that, you know, in life, it's all master, a graduate level course in a, on a university campus, if you haven't studied the basics, in junior high school or in high school or whatever it might be, you can't do logarithms if you don't know addition and subtraction. We go through process in life because that's just what life is about. And part of the process is to go through certain ups and downs. But as long as we're learning from those experiences and we're growing, then we're much more inclined to, hopefully being successful in the big picture of the journey, inshallah.
That's a very beautiful point. And I actually want to congratulate the parent for thinking like this, because
Absolutely.
I think too few parents are prioritizing the spiritual growth of their children from that young age. Also teenagers, that's one of the most important critical times for self-development anyway. So
It's hard, yeah.
We got to congratulate you for the effort, and please tell us how it goes, inshallah.
Inshallah.
If any other questions or comments, please do mention them. But I did before tell Sheikh Faiyaz I'll only go for about 45 minutes, and we've exceeded it already. And I will not let myself be taken out of my word.
I appreciate that. We did have a 2-3 minute hiccup, so we could take one more if anyone.
If anyone has a comment or question, feel free to definitely mention it. Or a question. Maybe I'll ask the question.
Sure.
Something. What have I always wanted to ask you?
Your chance, man. I'm fasting, so I don't know if I'm going to answer.
Okay, I think we'll put a line under the discourse on growth and let people, inshallah, take the lessons from it. You've been podcasting this Shahr Ramadan. Obviously, we have a podcast over here. Why do you think people like this forum to gain ilm? It's quite exciting, don't you think, that people can simply go in their car and drive around and listen to Sheikh with you, or obviously our podcast? Like, it's a beautiful way of discovering knowledge, don't you think?
Yeah, I've been podcasting now for during the month of Ramadan for 5 years. 5 years. I think this is my 5th year, alhamdulillah, or 4th year. Yeah,
this name Ramadan Reflections, by the way. Did you get that from me, or have you had that for the whole 4 years? Because reflection is my word.
5 years, always. Nightly sheikhing it up with Sheikh Faiyaz, nightly Ramadan reflections. No, it's always been the same. I think you plagiarized me, but I'll forgive you because you're in the UK and I can't sue you.
I said that. Also, I'm annoyed. I'll sue you right back. Don't worry.
Honestly, I think that it's easy. My episodes are only 10 or 11 minutes. And obviously yours are 45 minutes to an hour, or I can imagine. Mine are 10 or 11 minutes. It's easy, right? It's accessible. And I think that's why people listen to it. Nobody wants to listen to me talk for 45 minutes or an hour, right? Your conversations are in an interview format, and that makes it a lot, very, very exciting for people as well. It's not a front-facing lecture. And so I think that people are looking for things that are different, and they're looking for, again, different tools where they can help them grow and develop. And people are looking for things to do, most importantly, during the month of Ramadan. They're looking for ways to stay connected and stay engaged, but not be so active many a times, right? Because it's hard. During Ramadan, people are busy. Their schedules are messed up. People are tired naturally. And so I think that if we are able to create as many avenues where people are able to learn and grow and find, accessibility with regards to the knowledge that they're taking, right? We're having an informal conversation, not about anything in particular, right? But at the same time, reflecting upon matters that people might find important. That creates that opportunity of accessibility for them. And so I think that if we're able to continue to do that, and you're able to continue on with this project and this initiative, I think people will find it really, really beneficial, inshallah. So if you have not already followed Sayyid Abbas, then please do so, at Mr. Reflections Podcast.
Thank you so much. Since you did that, I'll answer for you. Someone has said, what's the name of your podcast? Could you please tell them what it's called and how they can access it?
Absolutely. It's called Sheikhing It Up with Sheikh Faiyaz, Nightly Ramadan Reflections. If you just search Sheikh Faiyaz in Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, Google Play, you should find it, inshallah. We come out with a nightly episode. It's only 10 to 15 minutes long, every eve during the month of Ramadan at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is New York time. And you can also go back and check out our archive. Obviously, they're 10-minute episodes, 150 of them now, close to over the last several years. So, inshallah, you'll find them beneficial.
No, and they are structured in a way that helps reflection after you finish listening, like in your own time. So I really advise everyone to. It definitely fulfills that function. So thank you for producing them, and thanks for being on the podcast today. May Allah bless you.
Thank you.
Congratulations again, massive congrats for what you have achieved. I speak for everyone, and I'm gonna assume the role by saying we're so proud of you, Agha. And
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And it's an honor to serve with you. Thank you so much. Now, while you're here, tomorrow, do you know Bilal Muhammad, by the way? Do you know him? Brother Bilal?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He's on tomorrow, because tomorrow is Good Friday, by the way. And Bilal has written a book recently on Nabi Isa ala Nabiyina. Since you know Bilal and you know his work, what can you advise to everyone to tune in tomorrow to listen to his podcast? We do this every night, by the way.
Bilal's an awesome guy. He's very funny. He's very, very intelligent. Bilal's awesome. You're gonna love spending time with him, inshallah. Please do check it out. I'll try to catch. If I can't catch the live, I'll definitely check out the archive myself, inshallah. Give Bilal my regards. You got to promise me.
Of course, I will. Every night I do this, and it's quite fun because some speakers are like, by the way, I don't know who that is, so don't ask me. So sometimes I just go for a pun and say, do you know?
Oh, no worries. No. Bilal from Toronto. No, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Well. He's a great guy.
Alhamdulillah. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Alva. Right. Everyone tune in tomorrow. Take care of yourself and pray for us, inshallah, Sheikhna.
Inshallah. You do the same. Take care.
Of course, Alva. Take care. Ma'asalam. And everyone else as well. Ma'asalam. Fi amanillah. See you guys tomorrow.